well. I can't complain. Who could complain on a day like today? I'm loving my life. John, good morning. Hope you are feeling better. Not quite. I'm still not really there. I got issues. I'm almost back. Good morning, accelerationists. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, team. Good morning, Matt. Hassan, good morning. Beaumatin, good morning, Bitcoiners. TGIF, Aqualodge. Hope you're doing well. Double B, hope you're doing well. Jason, happy Bitcoin Friday to the Breakup Gang. And Nolan, hopefully you're feeling much better this morning. Almost. We're getting there. I ate food last night. That was good. I still have a few issues. Food doesn't taste the same. Something wrong with my taste buds now. Something in my stomach, I guess, from what I had. I don't know. It's a big mess. It's a mess. We're going to be fine. We got a sunrise. We got a Bitcoin running. All that's left for us to do is have a coffee and talk about what's new. And boy, is there a lot new. There's some funny stuff today. It's one of those ones where I just have an inexhaustible supply of Moscow time. There's so much today. As the system breaks, I anticipate we're going to just have Moscow time. There'll be nothing else to talk about but fake news. But let's get into it because some of these ones are amazing, right? We got some amazing ones. All right, let's start with the Google thing. You know, the Google guy. So this is a headline from a few weeks back where he was talking about the election, the Google CEO, and he says, the Google CEO pledged to use AI to counter fake news, racism, and populism after the Trump victory, right? So he went on and did that. Now, here's a headline today from Bloomberg. Google left in terrible bind by pulling AI feature after right-wing backlash. It's not because it was crazy and wrong and lied. It was the right-wing backlash, guys. That's what it was. Oh, this is great. There's a bunch of advice today from MSNBC and CNBC, and some of this stuff is great. You know, if you would live your life on the advice of CNBC and MSNBC, you'd be in big trouble. Have a look. So CNBC writes, 44% of Americans can't pay an unexpected $1,000 expense from savings. We're just not wired to save, experts say. We're not wired. Our wiring's off. Oh gosh, they got another health one today too. This one's good. I wish Jevi was around for this one. He needs to hear this one. I'll tag him later if he doesn't join us this morning. Daily Mail writes, high fructose corn syrup is just as healthy as honey, says social media's favorite doctor, dispelling a common myth. It's just a common myth that high fructose corn syrup is no good. It's a common myth, guys, right? And everybody knows. I mean, I go out of my way to buy nice honey in Vermont, but what am I thinking? I just go buy the corn syrup. That's fine. No big deal. This one's great. This is also from the Daily Mail. George Monbiot says farming should be abolished to save the planet. Climate change activists say meat can be replaced with lab-grown food like protein pancakes. I want protein pancakes. They're better than steak. Everybody knows. Oh, this is great. On MSNBC, they had a couple of writers, a couple of, you got to say the skin color. It's relevant. A couple of white guys, a couple of old white guys. White guys are really the worst. It's true. They're the worst. I agree with anyone out there saying they're the worst. They're the worst. There's nothing worse than these guys. White women can suck too. But anyway. Here we go. These two guys, Tom Schaller and Paul Waldman, wrote a book called White Rural Rage, The Threat to American Democracy. So in their stupid book, it's white men. That's the problem with democracy. So they came out and said, actually, that the that the most dangerous thing right now are these white men, right? They're the worst thing for democracy. So they wrote a book about it. MSNBC had them on, and they just went on for hours. It was great, So that's what happened on on MSNBC, but they weren't done there. They had another analyst come out, an MSNBC legal analyst, who came out and said, the First Amendment makes the U.S. vulnerable and calls for common sense speech restrictions. Just common sense, right? Just common sense, right? Our First Amendment makes us vulnerable to claims that anything we try to do to regulate speech is censorship, right? Yeah, there you go. So that's fine. Then we also had the View yesterday talking about the Supreme Court immunity case, and Whoopi Goldberg had a brilliant, I mean, she's wicked smart, right? She's amazing. She had a brilliant legal analysis. She goes, when we were talking about the immunity and all that, she says, well, if Trump is right, then Biden can throw everyone in jail, right? She says, Biden can throw every Republican in jail if Trump wins immunity case. You know what Joe Biden can do? He could throw every Republican in jail. I mean, he could do anything, right? And Jack Posobiec writes, so what he's already doing? These are two unrelated to what she said yesterday stories that were in the Washington Post today. Ready? A tree cutter who smoked marijuana in a senator's office during the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison Thursday after his strategy of interrupting and challenging the sentencing judge seemed to blow up in his face. That's just one. We're not done. So on the same day where Whoopi Goldberg says Biden can throw anyone he wants in jail, right? We got that one. We got another one here. An off-duty Tennessee sheriff's deputy who claimed he was helping police was sentenced Wednesday to nearly 6 years in prison for aggravated assaults against 2 officers in one of the most violent areas of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. Oh, gosh. Corinne Jean-Pierre had a couple good ones yesterday, too. So she came out and said, folks need to understand that the president passes a cognitive test every day. Every day he passes one, guys. I don't know what you're seeing. Corinne, who's with him all the time, she knows more than you. He's fine. He's fine. Passes a cognitive test every day. I imagine that. She has another one here where they were talking about Laken Riley, the woman who went on a jog. And they tried to run a fake news article that it was toxic masculinity that doesn't allow her to go for a jog. That's what got her, right? It was toxic masculinity. But then we found out that the guy who killed her was actually arrested a few weeks earlier. He's a migrant, undocumented, illegal, whatever people call them. We have the new advice, the new name for them dropped, and I'm going to get to that. But he was illegal in America, and he was arrested in New York, and then they let him out because of Sanctuary City. You can't tell on people, right? You can't coordinate. Remember, the whole point of Sanctuary City is you can't coordinate between immigration officials who would deport and criminal justice. They're not connected in sanctuary cities. That's one of the big things. So he went on to commit the crime after he was let out in another city. So she says her answer was, the death was the responsibility of Republicans for screwing up the border, right? And whoever is found guilty, it's their fault too. She just says whoever is found guilty. This is very good. Very good. The Hill writes, President Biden declared fit for duty after latest physical exam. No problem. He's doing great. He also came out yesterday and he said, we're going to ban assault weapons. Biden said that yesterday. He's going to ban assault weapons. Well, we're going to talk about that later. Fox News says White House refers to illegal immigrants as newcomers. That's all you got to know, right? We don't have to worry anymore. Illegal, undocumented, migrants. They're just newcomers. They're newcomers. They're all newcomers. It's cool. These ones are great. So Hunter Biden testified yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about it. Here's Phil Bump. Phil Bump, he's doing great. Phil Bump, the Washington Post fake news writer, and one of the, I guess, more prominent PSYOP operators, says, in hours of testimony, Hunter Biden capably dismissed the debunked accusations that have surrounded him and President Biden. It's done. He got it. It's done. He did great. He did great. He has another one here. Research, this is also Phil Bump. You know, he does these 2 or 3 articles in a day sometimes, right? It's a pretty impressive amount of propaganda coming out of him. Research organization CHRA published new data that shows how strongly Trump support intertwines with the embrace of America being an explicitly Christian nation. Oh, this one's good too. So a couple of council members in New York City. Oh, Jevy, you missed it. You missed the. I'll go back in time for you real quick, Jevy, because you missed one and we were talking about you. This one was especially for you. I found this and thought of you immediately. So I'm going to go back and give you one more time. It's Daily Mail. High fructose corn syrup is just as healthy as honey. You got to hear it, Jevy. It's just as healthy as honey. You didn't know? You didn't know? It's just as healthy, man. Don't sweat it, Jevy. So in your next Substack on Primal Cut, Jevy, please mention this to your readers. I mean, it seems credible, right? Don't go out of your way to find good honey or anything like that. Just put the high fructose corn syrup and you're going to be great, right? It was an expert said it. No problem. All right, back to what we're really talking about here. So this one's from a couple of incredibly thoughtful of you and them. Yeah, it'd be great for the Primal Cut, Jevy. It'd be really good. You know, your audience needs to know. They've been probably afraid of high fructose corn syrup forever. It's the same. It's the same. Don't worry about it. All right, a couple of New York City councilors have let us know. They wrote an op-ed today, right? That New York's sanctuary policies make our city safer. Of course they do. Of course, New York is way safer than before. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. I can't wait to go to safe New York. It's my favorite thing. Oh, gosh. All right. We got a couple Canada ones here, too. All right. In Canada, the Toronto Star writes, "It is time to regulate prices of healthy food just like any other utility. The government should require grocers to make nutritious food basket available at prices that are affordable to families across the country." Canada ain't doing so well, guys. Now, a bit of sad news for me personally. A former Prime Minister of Canada died last night, and I knew him pretty well. He was Prime Minister when I was a little child, and I had a couple connections to him. But to paraphrase for Americans out there, he was an English Quebecer like me. His name was Brian Mulroney. He was an English Quebecer like me. He went to the French law school where I went in Quebec City. And that really started a whole era when he did it. It produced a whole generation of young English people that ended up going to law school there too in French. So Viva Fry would be one, I would be another. There was a whole bunch of us that ended up doing it. The rules changed recently, so it's not happening quite as much as it did when in my era, but there you go. So he was Prime Minister for, I think, 84 to 10 years, maybe 2 mandates. And I also had a personal connection to him in that the best man at my wedding was his godson. So I'd met him a bunch. When my best man got married, he was at the wedding. We were talking about Bitcoin. He was totally interested. I'd met him a few other times. Great guy, really great guy. But what does the Canadian press say about his death? Right? What do they say about his death? Brian Mulroney, one of Canada's most divisive prime ministers, dead at 84. Divisive, guys. That's what he was. Everyone remembers that. All right. So that's what we got for Moscow time today. It's a pretty good one. All right. So, but you got to know that Canada is really going to shit. And I don't think it's salvageable because, for example, they don't have guns. So without guns in Canada, they have a couple of rifles and stuff like that. But without any other way to defend yourself, the normal institutions that would be able to support the democratic system, whatever you want to call it in Canada, is done, right? The best Canada has going for it is Alberta and Quebec, who are ready to break it apart, right? That's all they have left to defend themselves. I don't think there's much left. And we can see it's even more. right? So they've got this new law, the Canadian Human Rights Act. Now, when I worked for the Prime Minister, the previous one, Stephen Harper, a Bitcoiner, his son will be at Bitcoin 2024. Ben Harper, he is a Luxor derivatives trader on hash rate derivatives, not like, what will the price of Bitcoin be, but literally what's the hash rate going to be, and gambling stuff, but interesting, really interesting stuff. And we got rid of this provision when we were in power. We thought it was already a disaster and it was creating fake litigation and things like that. But they're bringing it back, and it's way worse than it sounds, right? So what do we get this time? Well, Ezra Levant breaks it down. He says, for years, the Canadian Human Rights Act has banned discrimination against people based on gender identity or expression. You, of course, have and then he's talking to Jordan Peterson here. So Ezra Levant, also a lawyer. So I've met Ezra many, many times as well. Ezra and all these characters, we all sort of knew each other in the old days in Canada. When it was still safe to go there. I can only visit. Like, I can only visit there. I can't actually make my life there. Not safe for business. Not safe for business. So here's what he's saying will happen to Jordan Peterson. For years, the Canadian Human Rights Act has banned discrimination against people based on gender identity or expression. You, of course, have never discriminated against anyone. But this new bill adds Section 13 to the Canadian Human Rights Act, which now says that mere speech is considered discrimination if it is likely to foment detestation or vilification of an individual or group. So now if someone watches one of your YouTube videos or reads one of your tweets about, say, transgender athletes changing in the girls' change room, and as a result is likely to have had hard feelings towards trans people, that's hate speech. That's step one. Here's step two. Any member of the public, including non-citizens, can lodge a complaint against you to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, an activist quasi-judicial tribunal run by non-judges appointed by Trudeau. You can get up to $20,000 per complaint from you, and they don't have to be the victim. There doesn't have to be a victim at all. Remember, it's a future crime. They only have to show that your tweet or video is likely to, might cause one person to have hard feelings about another person. $20,000 that you'd pay the complainant plus $50,000 in fines to the government per complaint. So there would be a new complaint for every tweet you make, every video, and the complaints can be professional busybodies and activists, and the complainants can be professional busybodies and activists. They don't have to be a victim. Why wouldn't woke activists literally file a CHRA complaint after every single thing you do or say on social media? It's free. There's no limit. Even if you win, you lose. The process is the punishment, right? The process is the punishment. And of course, they're going to win. This will become an industry to enrich woke grifters and destroy you financially. But there's the truly amazing part. The complainants can keep their identity a secret from you. Secret testimony from secret witnesses who get paid up to $20,000 to take a run at you. That's Canada. And now we have this, and here's the thing, right? We don't even have media in Canada. You can't read the news. They can't read the news in Canada. You can't share news links online. All you get are CTV, CBS, CBC, only the fake news that all live on Trudeau's bailout money and cash infusions because none of the business models make sense. So here's something we found out. Do you ever think we're going to hear about this in the news now? This is how bad Canada's become. So Pierre Poilievre and some other conservatives had a press conference this morning saying, we've just received documents that Trudeau has been covering up, a massive security breach at the Trudeau government's most sensitive lab, where the most dangerous viruses and pathogens are studied and handled. Trudeau's government had the head of pathogens was collaborating with members of Beijing's People's Liberation Army. Now, I don't know exactly what's going on in there, right? But no one is going to talk about this. This is just going to go away. I can't imagine anyone in Canada is going to be like, oh, what's wrong with dealing with the Chinese government about, don't we have are we developing vaccines or something, right? So I don't imagine they're going to try and make an issue about it, but you can't really do it that way in Canada anymore. So this online harms bill will go further into this. It's not just going to be about woke and gender. It's going to be about almost all criticism. It's going to be used again by government to stop any kind of criticism of them, and if you do, they'll say, well, you can't say that, it's discrimination, and da 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 da. So you've even got Scott Adams yesterday saying that he doesn't believe the bill is real, right? It's so bad. There's something wrong here, right? Scott Adams said on a show a couple days ago, and it does look pretty bad, right? And going further into how the punishments will work on this bill, right? You get this guy named Arif Virani. You got to see this guy. He is one of the dumbest looking, ugly, stupid fuckers you'll ever see in your life. I mean, just a sick fuck. And this guy, right? This is what he says is going to happen, right? Trudeau Liberal Justice Minister Arif Virani says that putting Canadians under house arrest on suspicion that they may commit a hate crime in the future will help to de-radicalize people who are learning things online. That's the Justice Minister saying, no, we're going to house arrest a bunch of people, and that's how we're going to do it. So now, all the shit that happens in Canada usually flows down into America, right? The shit just sort of goes downhill and then goes into America. So look at what's left with how to defend Canadian democracy. I'm not sure it's salvageable. Again, I think all that's left is Quebecers' independence and Albertan independence. I think Quebec continues to be furious about Trudeau and all this stuff. Maybe elections will work in Canada, maybe, but I have my doubts because I still don't think that the 2015 election in Canada was very credible, which was the first one that brought Trudeau to power. And I doubt we've had much credible stuff going on in Canada. Remember, shit flows downhill. Where does Dominion and all these stupid voting machines come from? You know where they come from, right? They're from Canada. So a lot of this stuff started up there. So you can imagine it comes downhill, right? And you can see we don't have courts. Like this is a corruption of the courts. We have a corruption of the media. We have a corruption of elections in Canada. All those things are apparent in America too, and getting worse. They're not quite at the shit level of Canada, but they're getting there quick. Here's what we know, right? You've got the court system in America right now. Guess what everyone is signaling that the courts are, that the Supreme Court itself is in America now, right? Guess what Chris Hayes and all these people say, right? They come out and say that the court, right, the SCOTUS, is a MAGA majority, right? Do you believe that the 5 conservative justices are MAGA? They do. And that's what they're calling them now. So you see a coordinated and sincere effort to delegitimize the US Supreme Court right now. One can only imagine that the goal of this is to either flood the court or ignore the court's judgments because they don't fit with what the Democrats want, right? And so here's Chris Hayes. The SCOTUS order was a clear, unmistakable sign from the MAGA majority. This is from MSNBC. Of the Trump-created court. They call it a Trump-created court now. Very dangerous stuff. Very dangerous, right? That they are with him. They are going to use their power to make sure that he does not face trial in an election year for attempting to end American democracy. So this is the old predicate again, right? Defending democracy, right? You get Rachel Maddow saying the same thing, right? When Supreme Court inevitably ruled that presidents aren't immune from prosecution after they leave office, what that will tell Donald Trump, if by then he is president, is that he can never leave the office of the presidency. So they're trying to say now that the Supreme Court is opening the door to have an election that will end democracy. Very dangerous stuff, right? You get a lot of people saying exactly that. The Supreme Court slow walking, they've expedited the case, right? That's how they're trying to frame it. They're expediting it. So you're getting all these cases now about here's another lawyer saying SCOTUS has just lost its last shred of legitimacy. So you're starting to hear people say it's not a legitimate court. And I think that's going to ramp up. So you're going to hear much, much more of that. So we don't have court systems that are credible in America. Just look at Fannie and all these other ones. Now, the Supreme Court was supposed to be the only thing we had left of the republic in America, but I don't think that is going to help us, right? It looks like it might help Trump survive for a little while, but they don't see it as legitimate. So it doesn't really carry any persuasion force anymore because they're persuading and brainwashing around this at this extent, which means that anything that comes from, they've run so much propaganda on Clarence Thomas, for example, that for taking vacations or something, that he's just tarnished so much that nothing he does or says sounds credible to Democrats anymore. This was done deliberately, it looks like. What about elections, right? What about elections? You know that Mark Elias guy, Mark Elias? So he's the one who did a lot of the gerrymandering and rigging of the voting systems to make mail-in ballots acceptable in 2020. He was the main guy behind it, right? You got to see his face. He's one of the most disgusting looking people too, like disgusting, round, seed oil filled fucking gullet. He looks like a turkey. Worse turkey neck than his turkey neck is much worse than the turtle. What's his name? Who's retiring from the Senate? The guy who was around. I can't remember his name right now. What's that guy in the Senate who just retired? Mitch McConnell, right? Cocaine Mitch. So, he's got his own little turkey neck thing going on. This Mark Elias, much younger, he's probably only 40. He is one of the most disgusting seed oil infused people you're ever going to see. I mean, really, really seed oil infused, right? So he was in all these videos yesterday talking about how he's going to save democracy. There was an article, Mark Elias's fight for democracy. He went on an Aaron Rupar show. Aaron Rupar is the guy who cuts videos to be fake. He's the one who did the Charlottesville hoax video. Here's what he says. Trump's entire war on voting, his demonization of election officials, is part and parcel of a political party that no longer seeks to rule by mandate and popular support, but by making it harder to vote and easier to cheat. I love they're putting it in these terms. They're putting in the terms that I've said we have to fight on, right? Convenience versus credibility. He's arguing to make it easier to vote. Why? Why? Right? He's got more stuff to say here. Look at his celebration yesterday. This one's awesome, right? This one is really good. So he's talking about something that happened yesterday in Arizona. Mark Elias says, breaking, federal court strikes down Arizona over suppression law that required proof of citizenship for voting in violation of federal law. So he's happy that in Arizona, the court has struck down a law that required proof of citizenship to vote. And he says, congratulations, citizens of Arizona. Congratulations. Anyone can vote. So he also said this, because he's feeling a little down, right? He wrote this. To everyone feeling dispirited and worried about our country tonight, I offer these words on how I view the fight for democracy. It is from a profile on me from 2 years ago in the New Yorker, right? So this is the profile. The first defense against Trump's assault on democracy. When the former president tried to overturn the last election, Mark Elias led an overwhelmingly successful legal response. But some critics believe that his fight for voting rights could backfire. And we get this. We're not done. We're not done. There's more election news in America. It's not just that. It's not just Mark Elias, right? This comes from NBC News. They're saying there's going to be a new election security task force. That sounds great. Wow, we're going to get election security task force in America. Oh, but wait, it's NBC who's reporting this. Well, what else does it say? Democrat Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania will announce a new election security task force Thursday that will put in place measures that officials hope will keep the 2024 vote in the battleground state free from interference and misinformation. You got to know who's doing it. It's reported in NBC, and it's a Democrat governor. Yeah, I bet they're going to put a bunch of MAGA people on this thing. It's going to be even. It's going to be right down the middle, for sure. So if we didn't know, we know now. And this is what Mike Benn says about it. I called the setup of this exact state level governor's office censorship mechanism for the 2024 election, and with specificity at Sunday office hours this week. We'll pull and post the clip later today so folks can see what's behind this. So it looks like they're going to go to state level and start trying to suppress votes that way. And by suppress votes, I mean make it easy for everyone to vote so that your vote, if you're a citizen of that state, doesn't matter. So, just like Canada, right? We don't have courts. They don't work. We don't have elections. They don't work, right? They're not part of the Republic anymore. They're not part of the cocktail of what we have left of the Republic, just like Canada. Now, I mentioned in Canada, they have the media trouble, right? They got the media trouble. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. It's not part of any democratic republic thing anymore. Nothing like that, right? What's going on in America? Well, yesterday, CBS, Catherine Herridge, the woman who was CBS's Catherine Herridge, the woman who was fired, remember her? She's the one who authenticated the Hunter Biden laptop. Then she was fired. They took all of her materials when she left, and they're bullying her now for her sources. So this is what happens. Now she's a federal judge, has just held investigative reporter Catherine Herridge in civil contempt for refusing to disclose her source for stories about a Chinese-American scientist investigated by the FBI during her time at Fox News in 2017. She faces an $800 daily fine until compliance with 30-day stay to appeal. She was just fired by CBS News with the reporting materials seized and then released following outrage. She's known for pursuing the Hunter Biden alleged corruption story. So, and we learn more that the people involved in this, in her thing, hold on, I missed those stories. Well, look, there's something about the judge, and I thought I had the story here. Let me just get it so you know for sure. It turns out that the whole connections with the judges is super corrupt. It's not nearly as simple as it sounds. It sounds like everything we know from it. Hold on, let me just find Catherine Herridge. Yeah, here it is. The same judge, right? So this judge that was involved in it blocked special counsel John Durham from entering evidence against Clinton lawyer Michael Sussman that would have detailed their plot to leak false Trump-Russia info to the media. The judge is married to Dem lawyer Amy Jeffries, who represented Lisa Page. So it's all connected. These are all the same people, right? So we don't have like media and courts and none of that. That's all gone, right? It's just like when you hear Canadians, like I listen to all these like just rock bottom stupid Canadians here in Barbados. And they're like, they still believe their country is like admired. They don't, like old dumb people that just watch the local news in Canada still think that people around the world think their country's great. You know, they're like, they're trying to give advice to people on how to move to Canada. And I'll tell them, right? This girl came up to me who works at the beach club I go to and says, you know, how do I move to Canada? I said, don't. What are you talking about? This is so expensive, shithole, cold, dumb. You know, there's nothing there for you. What are you talking about? And so she's like, well, this old lady told me it's great. You know, yeah, well, the old lady doesn't know what's going on in Canada, so don't listen to her. Nobody should move to Canada. Nobody. It's not fit for living. It's not safe. It's not safe, right? And America's going that way, unfortunately. I don't think, you know, at least there's some things, but we'll get to that. We'll get to what we got left in America soon. So the you know, and the media piece, again, it's not just Catherine Herridge. You know, how about this one? You get the FBI again raided Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, one of his campaign contributors, or maybe not a campaign, top aide. Yeah, one of his top aides got raided again. So how many times has he got raided in his group now? It happens all the time. And in fact, it happens every time he makes a criticism of the Biden administration. He says we got to get rid of the sanctuary city laws. Again, he made another point, right? But it didn't go very well. So the FBI raided the Brooklyn home of Winnie Greco, a top aide to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Just 3 days ago, Mayor Eric Adams called for changes to a city's sanctuary city laws. In November 2023, FBI raided the home of Adams' chief fundraiser, prompting him to abruptly cancel a series of meetings in DC to discuss the migrant crisis. Almost like clockwork, right? Looks like that's what's happening. So are you going to hear about it? Probably not, right? They're not going to, the Democrats aren't going to hear about it, right? I would love Eric Adams to jump ship. That would be great. That would be funny. I think he might, right? I have a little bit of confidence in that guy, a little bit. So there you go. Now, again, with the media, right? I told you the one that I mentioned the one yesterday that about Hunter Biden, right? How Phil Bump he did great, right? He navigated the debunk things. It's fine, right? What a fucking horrible person that Phil Bump is. The way he manipulates language. Oh, you just want to drop him from space, don't you? You just want to drop him from space. But here's what we found out. So Hunter Biden had a closed door thing yesterday. The transcript's out. I haven't read it all. I haven't read everything that happened yesterday. But here's what we know. Peter Schweitzer highlights Joe Biden's from Canico the Great foreign influence peddling scheme, emphasizing that America's bribery laws include family members receiving money. Remember this. When it comes to bribery in public service, you do not need to show that family members got money in a corrupt way for one of these things. Just getting the money is proof of corruption. That's what you need to know, right? Family members can't get paid. That's it, right? There is no excuse that will make it okay. Are we really at the point in America where we're going to say that the first family of the United States can accept tens of millions of dollars from foreign adversaries and it's not a problem? They send 5 million here, they send another million there, and what Hunter Biden wants you to believe is that they got nothing in return. But they keep sending money. That's laughable. There's no legitimate business purpose that he provided for this. There was no product. They bought no capital on the table. They brought no capital. He's really a farce. Since when has Hunter Biden become a credible witness on this stuff? They've lied since 2018, and we first exposed this. The bottom line is, and I think Republicans have to be reminded of this, America's bribery laws are very clear. It does not matter if Joe Biden got a dime. If your family gets paid and you perform policy actions in return for those funds, it is bribery every bit as much as if you got the money yourself. So that's what we know, right? Remember the Marco Polo report on the Biden laptop, which extensively details dozens of examples of the Biden family and their business partners violating the FARA, Foreign Agent Registration Act. It's crucial to understand that all the funds acquired by the Biden family from foreign adversaries were illegally obtained due to their failure to register under FARA. Now, we did find out yesterday that Hunter admitted that Joe was the big guy. They're talking about 10% for the big guy. We now know he admitted it. Are you going to hear anything about that? No, you're not, right? Meaning that Obama and Joe, using Hunter as proxy, were selling U.S. policy decisions to foreign oligarchs to enrich themselves. They sold us out. You know that as treason. Now, Matt Gaetz did talk about what he heard yesterday. My assessment from the deposition today is that Hunter Biden was essentially managing a money laundering. So he went on to the Steve Bannon show and says, managing a money laundering operation from foreign entities into the Biden family. That said, for dozens of moderate Republicans, they will only vote for impeachment if they see money going directly to Joe Biden. I think he is very unlikely to be impeached by the House of Representatives based on the evidence we currently have. What are you going to do? So now, all this to say, just like Canada, America doesn't have a credible media, credible legal system, credible elections. What's left of the republic after that, right? There's not much left, right? But there's some things, right? First, we got the former president, who was very funny, right? And hey, the humor is worth a lot because yesterday he went and we had one of the most amazing examples of the contrast principle. Both Joe Biden and Donald Trump went to the border. They did a dueling border media thing, right? Now, I didn't know Trump was going to go. Joe said he was going to go, and then Trump sort of slipped in there to a different, but they were about 300 miles apart. Texas is big. But the contrast was amazing, right? Trump out there, fun. He's with Mayor Abbott, right in the real war zone where there's things going on. He inspected the troops, full of energy, full of liveliness. Styx Hexenhammer writes, as easily predicted, the difference could not be more stark. Biden just ranted about climate change while Trump is actually discussing the border. So indeed, Biden goes to the border and he's in a very stage managed place. There's no one around, nothing happening there. It was in Brownsville, right? Brownsville, also known as Joe Biden every time he visits the washroom. And Brownsville, he goes to Brownsville, and this is what he says. I love some of my Neanderthal friends who still think there's no climate change. So he went on and talked about climate change down there at the border. It gets better. It gets better. Then, Styx Hexenhammer says this too. He says, more Bidenista retaliation against, this is the Mayor Adams thing again. Never mind. So, hold on, let me find it. I had a few more of these Biden ones. So he also asked in that press conference thing he did, he goes, join me. He goes to Donald Trump, right? He addresses Trump in his remarks. He says, join me or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. So instead of playing politics, why don't we just get together and get it done? So he tells that to Trump, right? And now everyone's saying, well, Stephen Miller says Biden rescinded all of Trump's border executive orders on day one. It was literally his first act as president in the Oval Office. Then we also saw that. Oh, I thought I had another one of those. Anyway. So exactly, right? He came out and, asking the current president, asking the ex-president to support him on a bill that he changed already. It's kind of funny and perfect, right? But here's where it gets even funnier, right? So obviously Joe's press conference was stupid. It didn't make any sense. He didn't know where he was. He couldn't find his way off the stage again. And meanwhile, Trump, where he went, he went to where the river is, right? The El Paso River, and it's all fenced in. And there were some illegals on the other side, or people trying to become illegals to enter. And what does Trump do? He waves to them and says, they love Trump. They love Trump. So he's waving. You got to see him. He does, hi, illegals. And then they're all excited. So he takes it like they're fans of his. Pure Trump, right? Pure Trump. So the border duel was hilarious. And we all loved it. But here's what we know, right? So Trump is, I guess, one of the forces that still exists to try to save this republic, right? But truthfully, the difference between Canada and the United States when it comes to all of this stuff, and the reason why the United States will inevitably change and not be dominated by these mental cases, is because of one thing. It's the Second Amendment. We don't have it in Canada. And so there's nothing left. We have to beg for help. Canada will have to beg someone to come and save them because there's no possibility otherwise. There's no way they can fight against these forces, right? You got this stupid justice minister in Canada telling you they're going to put everyone under house arrest. Ugliest motherfucker you've ever seen from God fucking knows where, right? Where is he from? Where is he from originally? Was he born in Canada? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter, but why is he arresting people if they say things that might cause trouble in the first place? And for what he said, learning things online. They got to fucking drop this guy into the river in Canada. Like they can't, in the St. Lawrence River, he's got to go, right? Drop him off the top of Mount Rock. I'm not putting him in a space drop thing. He's too stupid and he's too ugly. I don't want to watch him. I don't want to see his face doing anything like that. Nothing. I would have to see it, there would be like highlights of him. I don't think there has to be a beauty factor when you drop people from space at all, right? There's some ugly people who will get dropped. But this guy's so irritating looking. I want him to die in a different way, right? That's just me. That's just me. I could be wrong. But what we got in America is we still have the guns. And the guns make all the difference in this case, right? Because whatever they thought was January 6th last time, there were no guns. Wait until you see the version with the guns. The version with the guns means we don't have to worry about the failures of elections. We don't have to worry about the failure of the media. We don't have to worry about the failure of any of these institutions, because we are in a world of whatever decision you make, whatever political orientation you have, the main factor that's determining where you end up moving your energy to is fear. We are not in a world of anything logical anymore. We're in a world of fear-motivated politics. And one half of the country having guns is pretty scary, right? Now, they'll say, what about the US military can stop them all? Well, yeah, but it's not that simple, right? And again, men who understand violence, it's not as simple as go do that, right? That creates fear too. So we'll see. They say, well, like Joe Biden says, what about the jets, right? You can't fight against a tank or a jet. Well, again, they got to sleep somewhere. I mean, they'll never sleep another quiet night in America again if that's what happens. So I think that the wisdom of the founding fathers has made a situation where the last remnant of the republic are the guns. With Bitcoin added to that, we can actually reestablish a republic based on guns and Bitcoin, literally guns and Bitcoin as the foundation of a decentralized republic, is going to be enough to push through. And unfortunately, the rest of the world doesn't have that. So we're going to have to go save a bunch of people. That's okay. All right. We like saving people. We did it before. We can save people again. But there you go. That's what we got. The image of Trump waving to people across the border is so funny. They love Trump. He's like, they love me. They're fans. There you go. All right. So, yeah, I don't think we need to fight with the guns, right? But it's gonna change who's afraid of who. All right. Let me see what people are saying over on Rumble. Let's see what the Rumblers are talking about. Yeah, my energy is still not quite there. This is, I'm not quite back. All right, live chat. Lots of chat going on here. Yeah, I heard the new Trump has a new name for Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newscum. It was very good. Very good. I loved it. I loved it. Bitcoin alive. March enjoyers. Yes, we love the March enjoyers. Good morning, Bitcoin running, Seaburger. Connecta. Bonjour, Countmeister. To the moon, my fellow freaks. Good morning. Good morning, all. Loon says. There sure are seeding us with news about the demise of farmers in America. No pollination, no honey. And there's going to be a lot of rage once the banks start to foreclose. Yeah. Is it truly Orwellian? Yeah. Con man sense. Someone needs to orange pill Maria Bartiromo. Oh, she's mega orange pilled, by the way. You didn't know that. Maria Bartiromo's husband has been a Bitcoiner. He was in that New York Bitcoin crowd from 2015 on. So Maria Bartiromo is a Bitcoiner. You don't have to worry about her. Her husband was friends with Murray Stahl, one of the big orange pillars of Howard Marks on Wall Street and a few of these others. So no, her husband, she's just leaving him, she's the wife type of thing in this case. He's the money guy. He's a real Wall Street guy, right? She's great at her job. I love Maria Bartiromo, but I still think that the husband who does the investments, she just leaves it to him, right? And he's a major Bitcoiner who got it from the beginning. So I wouldn't worry about Maria Bartiromo. She'd be good to have on the communications front for sure. We love her. On show today, she kept saying blockchain more important than Bitcoin. Oh, is that true? Oh, dang, I didn't read your whole comment. Someone needs to orange pill Maria Bartiromo. Oh no, well that doesn't sound like her husband is having enough of an effect on her. The newcomers are the real victims. Yeah, communism has never been tried before. Price controls are a super good idea. I'm not sure if you mentioned it today, but it's an important weekend because Bitcoin Atlantis. Have a great weekend. It sure is. And if you want to know what's an amazing thing that happened too, this is truly amazing. A true amazing coincidence too that I have to mention. So again, I've mentioned many times that I was a huge Bitcoin Atlantis, not the event, just the idea of Atlantis, the pyramids, the reshot structure, all that kind of stuff. Where did the pyramids come from? I'm a huge fan of this stuff, and I'm addicted to it. I have been for a long time. So if you remember, I was talking to a lot of people about Atlantis and Bitcoin back in 2021. And the things that I would talk about at the time were, we found Atlantis. There was an ancient civilization, much more advanced. It's erased now. We have no memory. We have complete amnesia about it, probably hidden. What we do know, for example, are things that don't make much sense, right? I've been saying for a long time, once we peel back what Bitcoin can do to the Republic, once we see those effects, the actual changes are going to go way back into history. Because if you think fake news is the problem, fake history is much, much worse. Much worse, more prevalent too. So if you take this fake history thing to the extreme, you're going to realize there's so many, not reality shattering concepts that are about to enter the mainstream. One of them would be that the moon is fake. You guys have heard this? The moon is fake. Now, I don't believe the moon is real at all. Well, I haven't for a while now. Now, what do I know of it being fake? I've heard many times that when they dropped the thing, when they landed, it rung hollow. For me, the proof that it's fake is this simple. It's the weird mathematical coincidence of the moon being exactly 400 times smaller than the sun, but 400 times closer to the Earth than the sun, which is why they appear the same size in the sky. And we're about to have a beautiful solar eclipse in North America in a couple of weeks, and it'll go right over my farm. I won't be there, which is just an absolute travesty for me. But that this weird thing can't be coincidence. And we still don't know where the moon came from. Like, they can say whatever they want, right? Earth got hit and something came out of it. It's all ridiculous, right? None of it makes sense. So the fake moon story, a lot of people have come up with theories around now, I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is. Is an artificial structure? Yeah, probably. But yesterday on Joe Rogan, you had Cat Williams talking about all this stuff. Amazing, right? So he came out and said that parts of the moon were artificially created and refers to the Apollo 12 mission when NASA reported that the moon rang like a bell. So not only are you getting the Bitcoin Atlantis show, you're getting it on the same day where these ideas are going mainstream. We heard about the Hermes Trismegistus. If you guys go back to some old whiteboard shows that I did, you'll see the Hermetic faith described from Hermes Trismegistus. They talked about a lot of that stuff. I've talked about a lot of this stuff on other shows. He went on as well about Thoth, or I don't know how to pronounce the guy's name, but where we all come from and everything that you learned in from that part of the world. So amazingly, this stuff is going mainstream simultaneous to the Bitcoin Atlantis show. So I think where we're headed is we're going to understand once we win this fight for America, once we change the world, once we get rid of this, we're about to learn. The big thing we're about to learn is that we're going to learn more about what we are and who we are and we're going to lose some of our amnesia about where all this started. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen at all. I don't know. I just think that that's what's after this. What's after this is not we just create a Bitcoin standard and we go on with nations and all that, right? There's a big missing piece that's about to come, and it might come this year. I'm not sure. This could take a really long time. But yeah, it's distressing stuff, right? I'll check this book out, Archaics. I'll check it out. Yeah. Now, again, some of the best stuff to look at are Y-Files. They're a lot of fun. He's a really great producer. He used to produce Joe Rogan's show, actually, and then did his own show. Robert Sepper has a lot of good stuff on this. So there's a lot of good content to chase around this Bitcoin deb. Now, again, it's just a suspicion. I don't know. Like, I've never been to the moon. I don't want to go to the moon. But I don't think it's real. I don't think it was like, and by real, I mean, it exists, right? But it's man-made. It's man-made. So it's real, but it wasn't made by any natural forces. I think people made it. Or there are other ways to explain it, but there's YouTube Notebook. Okay, I'll check that out. Yeah, Archaics, YouTube, great. Well, it's all interesting stuff. All right, let me go check the Bitcoin Magazine Rumble just to see what's going on over there. Oh, hold on. I used to learn about guns and butter and economics. Now they change it to guns and Bitcoin. Yeah. No, it's guns and Bitcoin, guys. By Jordan Peterson. The awe-inspiring conservative counteroffensive against woke. Yeah, I don't know if they can do it. The amount of gaslighting and distortion and outright lying never cease to surprise me. But these people are either totally brainwashed. Well, it's moving into the totally psychotic, Sluggo. It is moving into the totally psychotic. That's what's a little distressing about the language you're starting to hear today. This is absolutely like precursor to genocide stuff, right? This is all dehumanization. It's terrible. Is it really made of cheese? It's definitely made of cheese. The moon was brought here by reptilians. Yeah. There is, because indeed there is one ancient African tribe that probably didn't get swallowed up by the flood, right? That's why Africa still has big game. It looks like the flood didn't quite hit everything. Probably just the Sahara. It doesn't look like sub-Saharan got flooded as much, or at least the survivability was a lot higher, as evidenced by the elephants, and because we have nothing left in North America. They're all gone, and they all died at once. That's how we know they died of the flood. Caitlin Long, 10 hour. You lose me on the moon subject, Sluggo123. Look, I don't know, Sluggo. But what I say is I don't like how do we explain it? Where did it come from? Why is there no theory about where it came from that's credible? Like, we got hit by an asteroid. Get out of here. So dumb. Good morning, Nolan. What are your thoughts on doomers like Doug Casey? His latest podcast was really gloomy about Ukraine being the start of World War III. Neocons are gaslighting like crazy. How dare Russia put troops? I think that I don't know much about Doug Casey, but I can see why people would be gloomy about it. I just don't think anyone's going to show up for that fight. I mean, is anyone going to go over there and fight? They can't make Americans go fight there. They're not going to do it. Did you see the Rockefeller House on Jekyll Island is built on top of human sacrifice altar? I sure did. I want to do a Bitcoin show on Jekyll Island in order to use counter spells to erase the dark magic that they conjured by creating the US dollar. I legitimately do. I've been talking about that for a while. So, yeah, guys, the moon thing is a hobby of mine. I do it for fun. And I love the subject, but I don't know what's going on there, obviously. All right. What do we got here? Bitcoiners, happy March. Hey everyone, let's hit the like button. Crypto Joe says, I just switched from YouTube where the broadcast only had 43. We need to beat down YouTube. Yeah. Good morning, Bitcoiners. Nice to see you here. Crypt. Bukele did say our justice system was corrupt. We've known it for a while. But go to this dude's own channel, Count BTC. Mark Elias is funny. He be on Twitter talking about all these court cases he's part of. He's literally in every state fighting every election case. How does this guy have time and money for all this? It's true you are brainwashed by a death cult. I don't know. Utopians wrote that. Is he talking about us? Massive Trump fan and patriot from Scotland, biohacker says, loves BTC. Yeah, well, awesome, man. Welcome to our morning environment. Your government is going to manufacture an event before the election that will cut off from everything you need. Do this ASAP. Yeah, could be. So, dangerous times, guys. Dangerous times. Dangerous times. Yes, I'm in for the Jekyll Island trip. Yeah, I'm going to have a look at it, you know? The Underworld Halls of Amenti. I'll check that out. Love this show. Awesome. Okay, guys, that's all I got for today. Hold on. Another planet hit the Earth and created the sun. There is proof of Earth and moon mixed together. I'm not saying you couldn't make the moon out of the sun. I mean, out of the Earth, you know? Love Jekyll Island. Read Iron Mountain if you like that book. Bitcoin fixes the depressing ending of Jekyll. Yeah. And again, and it just happened. It just happened to be exactly the same size as the sun. Now, understand this, that if it wasn't for the perfect solar eclipses that we get, if it wasn't for the moon and the sun being the exact same size to our earthly perception, right? We would never have been able to figure out calculus. It was that was kind of the Rosetta Stone that allowed us to understand rate of change and have all these breakthroughs, right? So, I mean, you can say a planet hit us, maybe. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make much sense. And maybe, I mean, I've seen animations of it. I don't buy it. And there is no real proof. There's, okay, material, fine, material. But we don't know what the moon is made of. We've taken a couple handfuls of dirt from up there. We don't know. And the thing about it being hollow is real. It's real. Like that is confirmed by the astronauts who were there. When they dropped the thing, it did resonate and ring like a bell. It's empty. There's nothing inside. And so is that natural? I don't know. We'll find out. Mm-hmm. All right, team. Peace. Have a great day.